If I had to say my favorite Thanksgiving side, it's a tough question to answer, but I'm probably going to go with the simple answer of mashed potatoes. I'm sorry. I know that that is a plain vanilla answer, but it is what it is. Leave your favorite Thanksgiving side down in the comment section below. Hey guys, what's going on? James here. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope you all had a wonderful day filled with food and filled with family and friends. I know given the current circumstances of the world, that is a very hard thing to do, but I hope you all had your fill of delicious Thanksgiving dinners, however you do it in your household. Again, leave your favorite Thanksgiving side down in the comment section below and tell me why it's your favorite Thanksgiving side. Also, to everybody who's going to be shopping on the Black Friday, please be safe and please be careful because now more than ever, it's really hectic out there in them streets. But without further ado, guys, let's start talking about all the players that we all should be paying attention to for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Week 12 matchup versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the first player that I want to talk about is going to be arguably the main player on this entire Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, quarterback Tom Brady, who I feel a lot of people have been very critical of this past month. Some have good reasons, some not so much good reasons. The good reasons involve Tom Brady with his overall deep ball, which he has been struggling with the past month of play. The first 8 weeks, it seemed like the Buccaneers offense was getting better and better as the weeks have gone on. But now, for some reason or another, this past month, Tom Brady has struggled a lot in terms of his deep ball. Now, there can be a lot of reasons to that I've talked about in previous videos. Could be the play calling, could be the chemistry with the wide receivers, could be Tom Brady himself. It's probably somewhat of a combination of all three. I still think that this is very much a fixable problem because besides that, Tom Brady has had a very good year. 25 touchdowns right now to 9 interceptions. I will take those stats all day, every day, and the Buccaneers are still 7-4 when everything is said and done going into this game versus the Chiefs. So definitely things could be worse. We have seen things be a lot worse for this Buccaneers team, but, give some criticism where it is due. Tom Brady could do better on the deep ball, which I think we will see that begin to rebound and begin to, improve more as the weeks go on here into the second half of this season. Another thing I did just want to address here is that there has been some, reporting going on out there that, there's this beef, I guess, or there is this, butting of heads between head coach Bruce Arians and quarterback Tom Brady in regards to how this offense should be run. I would not buy that whatsoever. I think it's just some people getting bored, which is, fine, do whatever you want to do, I guess, when you're bored, but I would not put too much stock into that talk and those rumors that there is some, rift between Bruce Arians and Tom Brady. I think that they are trying now more than ever to work together so that they can have success as a team because a lot is on the line here, and at the end of the day, everybody wants to win. So they're going to be professionals about this, and when they do have problems, they're going to come together and fix those problems. That's how the NFL works. That's just how business works. So, I would not buy into those rumors. I would, however, point out that Tom Brady, he has struggled with his deep ball this past month, and I feel like we will start to see that improve now throughout the second half of this season. But Tom Brady's the first guy to pay attention to. Let's see if he can rebound on certain aspects of his game that he has been struggling with the past month, especially his deep ball throwing. The second player I want to mention, and I'm not being the fairest here in terms of my list, but I have the entirety of the offensive line yet again, who, got pushed around a pretty decent amount versus the Rams. I don't really blame them, though, considering that Ali Marpet was out with an injury. Ryan Jensen had moved over to center. Then backup center A.Q. Shipley had gotten hurt. Again, I've already made a video talking about that injury. Ryan Jensen had to get moved back to starting center, and then third-string guard Aaron Stinney had to come in because Joe Haig, whenever he played left guard, didn't do a good job, so they had to go with their third option, which was going to be Aaron Stinney, who I thought did a pretty decent job in the very limited amount of time that we saw him. The reason I have the offensive line here is because, one, they need to protect Tom Brady, and, they're always going to be a highlight throughout the season. Two is because of the injuries that are going on with the Buccaneers offensive line right now. So as it stands, Tristan Wirfs is healthy, Alex Kappa is healthy, and Ryan Jensen is healthy at center. So your right tackle, your right guard, and your center, all healthy. Ali Marpet is still in the concussion protocol, and there isn't necessarily a ton of optimism that he will be available for this upcoming game versus the Chiefs. So in his place. Scott Reynolds was reporting this from Pewter Report. Aaron Stinnie will be slotted in that left guard spot if Ali Marpet cannot go. Left tackle is a much more interesting story. I know all the criticism that we have given Donovan Smith, and a lot of it is warranted, but he did suffer a pretty bad ankle injury at the beginning of that Rams game this past Monday night, and also he is now questionable coming into this game versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe in a recent press conference, Bruce Arians went as far as to say that he was in a walking boot, but he felt optimistic that Donovan Smith could go, and we saw Donovan Smith finish that game, which does lend to some optimism coming in that he will be able to play versus the Chiefs, but also being in a walking boot, that's not a good circumstance to be in at all. If Donovan Smith cannot go, your starting left tackle will presumably be Josh Wells, which is not the best thing in the world. Josh Wells, look, I'm sure Josh Wells is a very nice human being, and I try to not be, negative on this show, right? I try very hard, but Josh Wells, in my opinion, is one of the worst offensive linemen I have ever seen in my entire life. Obviously one of the worst left tackles I've ever seen in my entire life, maybe the worst. Now, if he moved over to guard or center, maybe he would be better. I have no idea, but for the Josh Wells that I have seen on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this is some of the worst offensive line play that I have ever seen in my entire life. Okay, I'm going to stop being negative. If Josh Wells plays, I might actually cry, but Josh Wells would be slotted in at left tackle if Donovan Smith cannot go, and right now as it stands, it seems like Aaron Stinnie will probably be slotting into that left guard spot if Ali Marpet cannot go, Ryan Jensen at center, Alex Kappa at right guard, and Tristan Wirfs at right tackle. So pay attention to the offensive line for that fact alone. The Buccaneers could be missing their starting left guard and now their starting left tackle. Huge news there. So pay attention to that. The third player I want to match here, or I guess keep an eye on, is going to be the running backs. Again, I have, gone ahead and been a little unfair with my list, but Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, pay attention to those guys because they have been struggling in the receiving game. That's kind of what I want to highlight here. And also pay attention to some other guys who could get some playing time. LeSean McCoy may get some more snaps here coming into this upcoming game, especially since, hey, Kansas City Chiefs, his former team. You also could see Keyshawn Vaughn, who could potentially get some more playing time, former third-round draft pick. I understand why he isn't playing because Ronald Jones is there and Leonard Fournette is there as well. You also have the fact that LeSean McCoy is a solid veteran, and given the time restraints that all these rookies have had so far this year, it makes sense for why a guy like Keyshawn Vaughn isn't necessarily playing that much, but that could change with the recent receiving game struggles that the running backs have been having. So let's pay attention to the fact alone to see which running backs are actually going to be active and playing in this game. I also think that you shouldn't count out Kenyon Barner. I think he's a very solid running back veteran, but also pay attention to see if they can improve in the receiving game and also the running game as a whole. Fun fact, whenever Ronald Jones has 20 or more carries in a game so far this year, the Buccaneers are 3-0. Whenever he does not, he has less than 20 carries in a game, they are 4-4. So, who knows, maybe the key to victory, or a partial key to victory, could be just giving Ronald Jones the ball at least 20 times a game. Who has no idea? But let's pay attention to the running backs and see if they can improve, I guess, rather, from their overall rough game that they had versus the Rams, and also pay attention to which running backs are going to be active. The second to last player that I want to mention here is another position group. It is the entirety of the pass rush, who also struggled versus the Los Angeles Rams. 0 sacks on Jared Goff. That has got to change. Shaq Barrett has had a very rough year this year in terms of production numbers. Yes, his pressure numbers are still one of the top in the league, but he's not converting those into sacks as much this year, which is unfortunate. Now, I think that his pressures will at least get him some considerations of a decent level re-signing from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I also wouldn't be surprised at this point if the Buccaneers just say, Shaq, go see what kind of money you can get out in free agency, and we will decide as to whether or not we will match that, because right now his sack numbers are not that great. Jason Pierre-Paul is doing a little bit better. I believe he is still at 7.5 sacks, which does lead the team, but Overall, I do want to see more consistency in terms of moving that quarterback out of the pocket, especially a guy like Patrick Mahomes. That's going to be important to get some sacks and get some pressure on him, because even whenever he is running around from pressure, he can still make insane plays because it's Patrick Mahomes. So you just have to put as much effort in the pass rush as you can. It could be arguably the most important position group in this upcoming game. You've got to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes because that's really the only thing that you can do to try and stop that man. And even in those cases, you really can't stop him. So I need to see this pass rush improve from their recent game versus the Rams. And then finally, guys, the last player, or it's another position group, is going to be the secondary. Jamel Dean is, very much questionable and probably doubtful, I guess I would say, for playing in this upcoming game. So it would be a combination of Carlton Davis at the 1, who is still having a great year, by the way, hashtag #1 corner, Sean Murphy-Bunting, who has had admittedly a very up and down year, and then maybe Ross Cockrell would fit into that third cornerback spot. That's not necessarily set in stone, but in terms of other guys that they have out there, the only other guy I believe is Ryan Smith and maybe Mazzie Wilkins on the practice squad. So there's not a ton of guys right now who could fill in as a starting cornerback besides Ross Cockrell in place of an injured Jamel Dean, which I'm a big fan of Ross Cockrell. I know a lot of you guys in the comments section are a big fan of Ross Cockrell as well, and I think that if he does need to start, we could see a pretty decent game out of him. I do truly believe that. I think that he is a very capable starter, and I would be excited to see him start. But, the secondary as a whole, also the safeties, Antoine Winfield Jr., Jordan Whitehead, Mike Edwards, they've all got to be on their A game because Tyreek Hill is a menace, McCole Hardman is a menace, Sammy Watkins is very good, Travis Kelce is very good, and the running backs, Le'Veon Bell and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they're just as dangerous of receiving threats as some of those wide receivers and, Travis Kelce. So you have to be careful and you have to play your A game. And I know a lot of people have been critical of Jamel Dean, myself included, so far this year, but it does suck having him out because he's the fastest guy we got out there, and him versus Tyreek Hill would probably soften that blow a little bit. But now, potentially without him, things are just going to get a little bit more difficult. But I believe that if Ross Cockrell would have to sub in there for Jamel Dean, I think he would do a pretty solid job. But guys, that is going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comment section below. What are some of the players that you guys are going to be keeping an eye out for in this upcoming game versus the Kansas City Chiefs, or just position groups as a whole? Leave me your thoughts. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs!